Welcome to Life Recovery Today with Stephen Arterburn. In the next half hour, you'll obtain insights and tools to transform your life using the biblical principles found in the 12-step program. We believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience because we all have struggles in life. Struggles with addictions, food, depression, anxiety, and relationships, to name a few. You'll be encouraged to see how others have found a new way of life with hope for the future through life recovery. Your host is Steve Arterburn, founder of New Life Ministries and Women of Faith, author of over 100 books, and teaching pastor at Northview Church in Carmel, Indiana, one of the 20 largest churches in America. Steve is the co-editor of the Life Recovery Bible, the #1 selling recovery Bible. With over 3 million copies sold, this is the Bible given to inmates by Prison Fellowship and the Pew Bible for the Salvation Army. Now here's Steve.
Welcome to Life Recovery Today. Steve Arterburn here. Really glad that you've joined me. You know, we can become slaves to so many things. We can become slaves to liquor, and many of us have done that, and I'm telling you, liquor is a taskmaster. We can become a slave to lust, and everything that we have is destroyed by that one thing, lust out of control. We can become a slave to lavishness. We can become so comfortable with everything that we've got that we're just going from one thing of comfort to the next. All of those things, any of those things, can trip us up. Out there in the world of secular recovery, there's something else as well in the church. And in Galatians 5:1, we hear about this. In Galatians 5:1, it says that, be free and don't fall back in to slavery, especially to not liquor or lust or lavishness, but the law. Well, what is that saying? It's saying that a lot of people still think that somehow, some way they can be good enough to go to heaven or good enough to experience true sobriety. And sometimes they think they can get smart enough. What I love is to know that when I become a slave to something, addicted to it, dependent on it, there's really only one way to be totally free from whatever it is I'm involved with, and that's through Jesus Christ. I can work off my little die-hard battery, or I can work with the supernatural power of the Holy Spirit through Christ to free me from anything that's held me up. Do we need to work the steps? Absolutely. But what does that do, just working them, versus in freedom, being empowered to work them and to reach out to others and connect and be in community with other people? That's redemptive community. So what am I saying? If you're in recovery or you're not, if you're trying to be the best guy on the block and you're miserable doing it, maybe you've missed the one thing that provides freedom, total freedom, and gets us out of slavery of any sort, and that is Jesus Christ. That's what life recovery is all about. Not just some God, any God, but it's about Jesus. We start out with God as we understand Him, but our goal is to help you understand Him as Jesus Christ. Take a break, come right back for more Life Recovery Today.
Are you going through your struggles alone? Do you want someone to talk to help you through your pain? Do you feel like a failure when you relapse again, telling yourself, next time will be different? Don't walk this path alone anymore. Join a life recovery group today and be a person that your friends and family can be proud of. God created us to be in community, and we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country, and if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. Life Recovery brings recovery to you, right where you are. You'll take a journey with others to find healing and freedom. Whether you're looking to join a group or start one, New Life Ministries is here for you. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or visit liferecoverytoday.net.
Welcome back to Life Recovery Today. Steve Arterburn here, and I'm going to introduce this guest in a way that I've never introduced a guest before. His name is Terry LaDow, and he has been divorced, he's been in jail, he's been homeless. He's not that way now. And he has a really amazing ministry to people who have been sex trafficked, and we want to talk with him. He's a professional counselor, licensed marriage counselor. Terry, thank you for joining us here on Life Recovery Today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Now, I know you started young. A lot of people start things young, but you start drinking when you were 7 or 8 years old. So that's a lot of drinking. What age were you when you got sober?
45.
45. So how did that happen? What was it that turned that around for you?
Well, it was an interesting journey because I started because my parents used to entertain pretty much every other weekend, and I would help clean up, and so I would drink. And I found out that it tasted good and it helped. It killed the pain, it killed all those things, which is is what we have to deal with. The reason I quit makes no sense, and there was a gentleman working in the Orange County Jail. His name was Jack Clark. And I drove a buddy of mine out there to talk to him about it because he had just done 18 months for a DUI, and he'd gotten sober there, and he was going to introduce a program that he wanted to try. And Jack Clark looked at me, and I'd never seen him before, never seen him since, and he said, "You're an alcoholic. You need to get help." And people had said that to me for a lot of times, but this time was like, what? Who is this guy? Right. Pretty much it turned out to be the Holy Spirit was banging on my.
So what'd you do about that?
I went home. It was a Saturday. I went home and I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, trying to figure out what he saw, and I couldn't see anything. Mm-hmm. And so the part that was I didn't know what to do, but it was like don't drink. So I called Bob and I started going to meetings, and meetings started to make sense.
That is just so fascinating. A stranger says something, and it makes you want to look in the mirror. And you couldn't see anything that he could see. It's almost like it wasn't denial. It was more like you were just blind to
there was nothing. I mean, I looked normal, and in that that's what was as I've come to learn. Normal at that point is abnormal. But
right.
It's what I knew.
Yeah, and so you started going to meetings, and you just kept going to meetings.
Yep.
And I just think that's fantastic, and I think how valuable it is that somebody spoke truth to you. And surely, like you're saying, it was a supernatural experience, that the Holy Spirit really did something with that and inside of you.
Yeah.
Well, I want to fast forward because I'm really fascinated by your ministry. As I told you before we started, I was just watching a documentary on the sex trafficking done in Iraq by the clerics that are there, setting up pleasure marriages for 30 days with 9-year-olds or getting 13-year-olds married off without parental I mean, it really is like temple prostitution when you've got these clerics telling them it's okay to have sex with 9-year-olds. And I just can't imagine how any woman can support that kind of religion, that the clerics think that kind of thing is okay. But over here, we got the same kind of stuff going on, not with clerics, but we've got sex trafficking, and you are doing something about that. So let's talk about that. What is your ministry? How do you help these women who have been trafficked?
Well, our ministry is called Finding Freedom International, and we started about 11 years ago, and it's the work that we were doing was offshore, meaning that we were working with safe houses for children who are under the age of 18. And they're Christ-centered organizations. And what was interesting is we can't do that in the United States at that time. You couldn't have a faith-based program having kids who had been trafficked exist. So they had, and so our movement offshore was the only place we could go. And it started to basically, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so what do you do for those kids under 18?
Well, one of the things that we found out was that my Tara Shatsky, who started the program, had a friend in Thailand, and she was talking to her one day, and she said, we're burned out. We don't know what to do. We can't do this anymore. And so Tara said to me, well, what do you think? Because burnout's huge in what you do and things. And so we started talking, and we put together a support system for the staff people, but that gets passed on to the kids, and we started with a thing that is like, it's an identity question. It's like, who are you? And the society, the world, the enemy does a really good job of saying behaviors, your labels, if you will, identify you. And so we started with a basic concept. What's a safe house? I grew up in a not safe house. I grew up in a house where I was told I was worthless and no good. And my mom told me, I should have had an abortion. You're the worst thing ever happened to me. So my identity was less than and not valuable. And when you start talking about the things that you're seeing clerics do and all the stuff, the statement is, you don't matter. Yeah. And that's just so counter to what Christ did for us when he climbed up on the cross. Right. You know, our identity is in him. And when that gets separated out, when that gets taken away from us, all kinds of bad things happen.
I have to believe that one of these young women that comes in and has been abused in every kind of way possible, for them to start to think about that maybe who I am is separate from all those things, those abusive things that I was involved with, that I might be blameless, I might be pure. That just has to be one of the most amazing feelings for them when you're giving them that first glimmer of hope that not everybody in this world is going to consider that's who you are, and you're not going to have to consider it. What a gift!
It is. It's incredible.
How do you get them to accept that they're not all of that? How, you know?
Well, there's a very interesting concept that I think Jesus did not walk around telling people they were worthless. Yeah. The disciples, the people that he didn't say you don't matter, you're less thans. Right. He said, I love you, I care about you, important to you in spite of. And what happened along the way is when we were working with these people, and my first real serious introduction to trauma in this arena was in Nicaragua when we went down to work with an organization there. And they had older women, meaning women who had been on the streets for a while. And there was a lady named Anna. And Anna was tough. And I mean, she's you don't want to meet her in a dark alley. And I said to her after we'd done our conference, we'd taken about 3 days, and we talked about identity and who you are and how God sees you, and labels don't define you, and your yesterdays don't have to impact your tomorrows. And I said, Anna, come here, I want to give you a hug. And she said, no. And I said, yeah, I want to give you a hug. And she said, I'm not worth it. And it's like, yes, you are. And I said, Anna, do you remember my story? And so I went back and she said, yeah, but you didn't do what I did. And I go, it doesn't matter. We have a God who loves us anyway. And so I got one of those very, very simple hugs, just, yeah, fine, good, okay, don't let go of me. We've continued to work with Anna in Nicaragua, and now it's like she comes running across the open areas, and we just crash into each other, because the who we are, God's creation, doesn't matter what's happened to us. And when you look at what Jesus did, he said that a lot to the disciples. He said that to the Pharisees.
Fortunately, he says it to us. None of us are, or we don't have to be who we were. And you know, I just so resonate with it. My wife and I were on the board of a ministry called Stripped Free, working with sex industry women who about 87% wanted out but didn't know how to make it out, and we helped them do that. So I resonate with this in this ministry of yours. I'm going to take a break. We come back, I want to hear more about this. But what an amazing, amazing thing to give someone that is so full of shame, bitterness, resentment, to help them see that they can be free. We'll take a break and come right back after this.
It's hard to find a trusted friend when you're in crisis. Someone who's been there and understands, but who also has the training and skill to give you practical help. Family, friends, and churches want to help, but often they're not equipped to care for those dealing with problems like addiction and pornography, infidelity, anger, depression. New Life Ministries is here to provide help and hope in life's hardest places. We're not focused on making people feel better. We're focused on helping people do the work that will help them be better. At New Life, we have resources available to help you, like books, DVDs, CDs, workshops, and our network of licensed counselors. If you need help, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and begin your new life today.
Welcome back to Life Recovery Today. Talking to Terry LaDow, and he has a ministry that I'm telling you, you could quadruple it. And of course, there wouldn't be enough people to help those who have been sex trafficked. Well, we were hearing the story of Anna and how she came around eventually through good teaching and love. What do you think is the turning point for some person who has been used and abused, thinks that, you know, this is the way life is for me as a woman, this is what God wants for me? What do you think's the key in them turning that around in the same way that you turned around your drinking?
I don't, that's a great question. I think the biggest answer is understanding that we are created in the image of God. Genesis 1:27, we are made in the image of God. And if we're made in the image of God and He's an all-knowing God, did He not know what was going to happen to us? Did He not know that there was going to be some tough times? But why make us anyway? And my belief system today says it's simply because there's a bigger purpose for this. And yes, we're going to go through hard things. But I'm loved anyway. And he doesn't judge me on the choices that I make. He doesn't judge me on the things that happen to me. I use the term labels. And we label people. And I hate labels. Because it's like, what label do I use to identify me? You know, when I grew up in the house that I grew up in, the labels I used were not good ones. They were very, very, they were ugly. And, there's some bad things that happened along the way. And there's really no reason I should be here, other than God decided He had another thing for me to do. And so in that process, when we accept the labels that people try to put on us or we put on ourselves, if you go through the Old Testament or you look in the New Testament, God doesn't label people. He says, I don't like your behaviors, I don't like your attitude, I don't like the things that you do, but you are still worthy of, you're still worth it. You're important to me. And Jesus said the same thing in the New Testament. Yet we have a system.
Yeah, go ahead. So what does Jesus say in the New Testament?
He says you matter in spite of.
Yeah.
And so if you look at what's going on in society today, it's all about labelizing. If you don't believe what I believe, then you're worth less.
Sure.
And it's just, So when we do the question that you asked, when we tell somebody I care about you anyway, and I don't care what happened to you, it doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is who you are, God's design.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
All right. So I really do believe you starting at the right place. The issue of identity. It's just fantastic. I am hoping that somewhere along the way that those women experience a God-led grieving process of what's been taken from them, what's been stolen from them. When somebody leaves one of these safe houses, what do you hope that they're going to do to stay off the street, to live into their true identity? What are they encouraged to do to maintain or staying on what we could call the right track? What are those things that your program suggests to them?
Well, first of all, when we partner with someone, they're a faith-based program. They have God as the focal point, and so the things that they do: go to church, have church in the place, talk about God, have Bible studies, and the concept that we teach is that the value of your identity. And so when they leave with a different vision of themselves.
Sure.
And
yeah.
And that's the thing. You know, yes, I did this yesterday, but do I have to do it today?
Right. So what would help them stay on that path? Because it's a scary world out there, and it's hard to make ends meet. And what are the elements that keep them moving forward?
Well, unfortunately, you don't know what's going to happen, but the goal is they're moving into a healthy. We have a lot of them have transition housing, and so if they have transition houses, then that support system is going to continue to be there and continue to support them in that ways. But some of them go back to their families, which is really interesting because. Sometimes there's a runaway. Sometimes there's, something happens and they get kidnapped. I mean, some of the stories are horrible. I mean, they're just flat horrible. But when you start to understand that that you have value anyway, there's a certain amount of strength and resilience. And when you call on God for His power and grace in this process, the ability to say no to what you said yes to very often is much, much more powerful. And the value, I matter to God, period. So why? And that's because He designed and built me. And is He disappointed in me? It's like, right. Am I worth less? And the answer to all of those is no, but that's what we're told. So if I can change that, it makes it better.
Well, if somebody wants to know about what you do, where do they go? What is the website that you send people to?
It's findingfreedomint.org.
Finding Freedom, INT, which stands for International,
right,
.org.
Yep.
And in this world, where do you see the most severe sex trafficking? Where is the problem the worst in the world?
Close your eyes, get a dart, throw it on a map.
Mm-hmm.
The United States is horrific.
Yeah.
But we don't see it or hear it.
Yeah.
And it's local, and we don't do things. I work with the Orange County Rescue Mission, and the stuff that that goes on there, what these people come in with, and they have a program that they're helping girls come in off the streets, and so there's all this stuff that we don't talk about. If you take, like you said, Iraq or Iran or India is horrible. When you look at any place where there's war going on, it's like, I tell you what's going to happen with Russia and Ukraine. The Super Bowl. Super Bowl, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women were brought in.
I'm sure. Well, I live in Indianapolis, where a lot of big sporting events occur, and it is a big problem here. Mm-hmm. I want to encourage you to continue to do what you do. I think it's fantastic. I heard a testimony of one of the brightest law students you would ever see, and how she got sucked in to the sex trafficking industry within 6 months, and they threatened to kill her parents. And so they had her, and anybody can fall prey to this horrific desire for men to have sex with somebody that's younger, somebody that is being used and abused. And I'm so glad that you have a restoration ministry, that you're helping the folks that are helping those, and all the things that you do. And I hope that we can spend time together again. And again, it's findingfreedomint.org if you want more information about this. And if you're watching this, be sure you're not contributing in any way to this industry and clicking on inappropriate images. It has a value to somebody, and it's supporting sex trafficking. We'll take a break and come back in just a minute.
Life recovery isn't just about making the courageous choice to give up an addiction or dependency. It's a journey towards health, wholeness, and becoming your very best you. If you need resources to help you in your journey, we can help. There are many life recovery resources that you can do on your own, with a group, or with your church. We have Bibles, workbooks, and devotionals that you can use to work your recovery right where you are. That's the beauty of life recovery. To learn more or to get the Life Recovery Bible or any other life recovery resource, visit liferecoverytoday.net or call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
We've been talking about a very, very evil world of sex trafficking. It wasn't the way God intended it, but we blew it in the garden, and you can find some peace with the fact if you had been Adam, if you'd been Eve, you'd have done the same thing. And so now we live in a world where evil exists. What can we do? We can support ministries that help. We can pray. We can be open to reaching out in whatever way possible. Compassion over judgment. It seems to be the theme of Jesus' life, showing compassion to those who really have been hurt. Thanks for joining me today on Life Recovery Today. We'll see you next time. At least, I hope we will.
Thanks for joining us for Life Recovery Today with Stephen Arterburn. We hope this program has helped you integrate God's truth and wisdom into your recovery journey. This program is brought to you by New Life Ministries, and it's your support that keeps this program on the air. When you contact us for any reason, be sure to let us know that you watch on NRB. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to liferecoverytoday.net. Please join us again next week for more Life Recovery Today.